Hey guys, and welcome to the diary. Rebecca's diary, of course. So we are on entry 4, Dreams. Since it's Saturday, I invited Ashton to go with me to the public library to read. Books. I don't think I'll ever get tired of them. So many worlds to explore, so little time. He didn't seem too enthusiastic as I was, but he consented. We agreed to meet at the Central Park since it was both closer to our homes. Before leaving, my mom packed me a delicious, sweet-smelling bread pudding. I made extra, so don't forget to share your snack with Ashton, okay? She reminded me with a smile. Ever since Ashton saved me from bullies, I've been telling a lot of our adventures to Mum and Dad. I've told them that because of him, I was looking forward going to school even more now. They said Ashton's a good kid and that I've made the right choice in being his friend. Anyways, when I arrived at the park, Ashton was already sitting on one of the benches listening to his headphones. I waved my hands and ran towards him. "I've brought snacks," I proclaimed with a huge grin as I grabbed the bread pudding from my bag. "We can't eat that at the library, so let's eat here instead." He took a piece of the bread pudding and nodded. "Hey," he exclaimed in between mouthfuls. "Not bad. It's the most delicious bread pudding I've tasted so far." "Of course it is," I cheered whilst chewing my own piece. "My mum packed it with her best secret ingredient. Love." "You're so cheesy." "Take that back, or I won't give you more." "Okay, I take it back. You're not cheesy. Can I please have some more?" Halfway through our snack, we were laughing and sharing stories of what we were planning to do for the rest of the weekend. Just then, we noticed a skinny and seemingly malnourished, urchin blonde boy staring at us. Or rather, at our bread pudding. He was wearing a loose, ragged, and dirty overalls. His face was muddy and his body was full scratches. His face was muddy and his body was full of scratches, some old, some still swollen and fresh. His lime eyes reflected loneliness, but above all else, fear. He was about the same age as us, if not a little older, by 1 or 2 years. Seeing him in this condition wounded my heart. I used to be like him. Not in the degree that I was starving and homeless, but rather, I also held the expression he was carrying for such a long time. Loneliness and fear, nobody to hang on to. At least for me, I still have my loving parents. I don't know if he still has a family at all. I was about to call out to him, but Ashton beat me to it. He whistled and gestured for the boy to come closer. I could feel the boy's hesitation, but he obeyed anyway. "What's your name?" The boy didn't answer. He was being cautious. Understanding this, Ashton simply shrugged. He turned to me, waiting for me to say something. "Don't worry, we won't hurt you," I reassured, attempting to give him my sweetest smile. "Here, have some bite. It's the most delicious bread pudding in the world." Even though he was very hungry and I was already offering food, he was still wary of us. "Thank you," he whispered. He ate a piece and the fearful expression he was wearing instantly vanished. "It's delicious." "Right?" I grinned, almost proud. "My mom made it. Take some more. You seem like you haven't eaten the whole day." He gleefully nodded. "Thank you." Ashton and I looked at each other and smiled. The boys warmed up to us, so maybe it was a good time to ask something about him. What should I ask? His name? Or about his family? The less invasive is asking the name, but do we want to be a little invasive since he looks homeless? I feel like either way, we're gonna we're gonna get both answers. So we'll ask his name. If it's not too much to ask, what's your name? I smiled warmly. My name's Rebecca, and he's Ashton. Lucille. Ashton, who was drinking juice at that time, spitted some out. Oi, oi, are you serious? He asked in disbelief while wiping off his mouth. Isn't that a girl's name? Don't tell me you're actually a girl. Lucille's eyes widened because of embarrassment. He didn't know what to say, if only he was in the position to do so. I was pretty sure he would have punched Ashton for insulting his name. Don't worry, Lucille, I got you. Ouch! Ashton yelped when I smacked the back of his head. It was a joke. It's not a funny one, I glared at him. Seriously, be a little more sensitive. Fine, sheesh. Sorry about that, Lucille. I didn't mean to offend you. That's okay, Lucille uttered with a small smile. I actually need to go, but thank you so much for being so kind to me. The bread pudding was really delicious. Don't mention it. I hope we'll meet again, I smiled while waving goodbye. When he was gone, I turned to Ashton and said, we better get going too. However, he completely ignored what I said. I finally know what I want to be when I grow up. A cop, you know? Until now, I didn't really know what I wanted to be. Every job I think of seems so boring. But after meeting Lucille, I want to make this world a little better for kids like him. It's unfair because they're the ones who are suffering the most, when it wasn't even their fault. Plus, cops are cool. They have guns. I can imagine it now. Plus, cops are cool. They have guns. I can imagine it now. I'll be a cop with a silver gun and a cigarette in my mouth. Being a cop. Why didn't I think of this before? Just to prove his point, he grabbed a lollipop from his pocket and pretended it was a cigar. He was puffing invisible smoke into the air. What a dork. Why am I hanging out with him again? What about you, Rebecca? What do you want to be? He suddenly grinned so excitedly at me that I was completely caught off guard. My face reddened. Ugh, he was so cute, and I hated how it made me feel. On the top of my mind, I want to be a scholar or a book writer. Yeah, that does sound like you, he chuckled. From now on, let's work hard to make our dreams come true. For Lucille and all the suffering kids in the world. I smiled. Roger. Entry 5. Uh-oh. I guess I lost my sense of time because everything has been happening so fast lately. I felt like I was being dragged. Then again, it only ran fast for me because I often hear my classmates complaining how slow time runs during class hours. They would glance at their wristwatch every 5 minutes, wishing they were someplace else rather than in a dull and box-shaped room, listening to things that would enter their right ear and would eventually pass through the left. I guess the earth just kept on gyrating around its axis, and for days after the bullying experience I got from Mandy, nothing else seemed so real because nothing else seemed to matter. The only thing that was real to me was a beautiful scene. A boy protecting a girl. Rebecca's my friend. Anyone who wants to hurt her would have to answer to me. As long as I'm here, I'll protect Rebecca. I guess the only thing that matters to me now is a boy with small eyes and dark blue hair. School? Classes? Homework? No thanks. The capital of England is Ashton Frey. A polygon that has 3 congruent sides is known as Ashton Frey. The biggest part of the human brain is called Ashton Frey. Of course, I wasn't totally clueless of my situation. I eventually figured out what was wrong with me. I was simply caught off guard because I didn't expect it would happen so soon. Maybe it was because I didn't have any friends for the longest time, and I was just appreciating Ashton's companionship. He understands me the most, after all. Today, Ashton and I were on our way home when I suddenly went on a bookish rant about Nancy Blue, my favorite detective. I've been obsessing about her lately. I told him all about Nancy's amazing adventures and how I wish that someday I could have such an exciting experience as well. Ashton just nodded, continuing to listen to me with a huge grin on his face. "What is it?" I asked. "I've read her books before," he answered, still grinning. "Oh, you should have told me that sooner then," I grumbled, a little embarrassed and annoyed. "That'll save me some humiliation." "Don't say that. I like it when you tell me stories." I told him that when I first met him, he didn't strike me as the reader type. He said I shouldn't judge a book by its cover. "I'd choose sleuthing over school any day. School's boring," he continued. Suddenly I hear sounds of barking coming from the corner. This terrified me because the dogs and I weren't exactly in a loving relationship. When I was 5, a neighbor's rabid dog chased me all the way down the street. I was laughed at by the other kids, and the whole experience just traumatized me. Bottom line, I hated dogs with a burning passion. The barking continued, and I froze. I ran away. How about we freeze? I couldn't move. "Rebecca, why'd you stop?" Ashton asked, furrowing his brows. My whole body was shivering as words tried to escape from my mouth. It felt hard to breathe. Ashton stepped closer and held my hand. The barking grew louder. Ashton was cut off by the loud barks that were making its way toward us. I saw its shadow on the wall not too far away, and it looked big. It was almost as tall as I am. It growled, and I just lost it. I hid behind Ashton. "Rebecca, it's just a dog," he smiled, trying to reassure me. "It's not going to hurt you." "That's what you think. Before you know it, it's going to chase us down the street," I blurted out, petrified. From within a short distance, I could see it approaching. "Arf, arf." "Ash, what are we going to do?" I asked in sheer panic, holding Ashton tightly by his sleeve. He didn't answer. Instead, he just peered at me with an amused expression. Smirking, he stepped forward and carried the dog in his arms. It's a baby Pomeranian. The puppy snuggled closer to him. "You poor little thing, did someone leave you to wander by yourself? Do you want me to take you home?" "Whoa, take it home? No way!" I protested. "Let's just leave it here." Ashton gazed at me with so much disappointment. "Rebecca, do you trust me?" I was taken aback by his question, and I failed to answer. "Do you trust me?" he asked again, and I hesitantly nodded. "If you trust me, then pat this dog." "You're unfair, Ashton. You're super unfair." With my hand still trembling, I reached out to pet the dog. It wagged its very tiny tail and barked. I jumped, and Ashton laughed. "Don't be so tense. She likes you, Rebecca." He handed me the puppy, and it smelled and snuggled me. "See, there's nothing to be afraid of." Although I was still cautious, I nodded at Ashton with a small smile. Okay, to give this dog some credit, she really was a cute ball of fur. "Coco! Coco, where are you?" We heard a soft, feminine voice from the distance. A teenaged girl appeared, and when she saw the puppy, she rushed towards us. "Is this your puppy?" Ashton questioned. "Yes," the girl nodded. I was so scared when I couldn't find her. She's my precious baby. Thank you for looking after her." I handed her the puppy, and she waved goodbye before parting ways. "Thank you for helping me overcome my fear, Ash," I said as we continued walking home. "If it's for you, I'd gladly do it again," he proclaimed with a childish grin. That smile, that sweet, innocent smile. It'll be bad if you continue giving me that kind of smile, Ashton. I'm screwed. Entry 6. Answer. Ashton and I almost fought today, and it was all my fault. It all started when Ashton suddenly stopped talking to me. He hasn't spoken to me for days, and I worried myself to death, wondering if I did something wrong and why he was suddenly shutting me out. I had a hard time eating and sleeping. Now that I'm writing this, I think it's because Ashton's my only friend, so the thought of losing him frightened me to no end. I ended up being clingy and selfish, especially after I've realized that he was actually more than just a friend to me. Did he notice my feelings for him? Was that the reason why he was avoiding me? Not knowing the answers to my questions were killing me, and my stomach churned at the thought that Ashton didn't want to be my friend anymore. It took me a while to ask him, but because even though I said I wanted answers, I was also afraid to know what they were. I called his house thrice, but nobody answered. When I got back from the library later this afternoon, I noticed him sitting at his desk, head buried in his arms, like as if he was sleeping. He was the only one in the room. He must have felt me staring at him because he suddenly raised his head, and for a second, his eyes were locked into mine. I was startled, and I immediately looked away, blushing. I clenched my hands and bit my lip in a desperate attempt to compose myself. After breathing deeply, I approached him, but he turned his head away and looked the opposite direction. "Ashton," I said. He didn't answer. "Ashton," I repeated, a little louder this time. "What?" He finally answered, irritated. "Are you mad at me?" "No." "Then why are you avoiding me?" He just shook his head. "Leave me alone." "No." My answer made Ashton snap. "What do you want from me?" I was taken aback by his outburst. This was the first time I'd seen him this upset, but I wasn't leaving until he talked to me. "I want you," I yelled, but as soon as I did, Ashton and I were both surprised by the words that came from my mouth. I mean, I want you to talk to me," I hastily retracted. My face was hot from embarrassment. "I don't really feel like talking to anyone," Ashton responded in a cold manner. "So go away." "What should I do? Set him straight? Give him space?" Set him straight sounds like you're going to give him a lecture, but if I give him space, it might be unnecessary space and he actually wants someone there with him despite trying to push them away. So we're going to go with the first one. Let's see if I screwed anything up. I wasn't accepting this. His actions were hurting me, and I couldn't take it anymore. "No, I am not going away. You can't just barge into someone's life, make them feel special, make them care so much, and then suddenly drop them out. No, Ashton, you just don't do that. Now, if you don't want me to be your friend anymore, that's fine, but at least have the guts to tell me." Before I know it, I was already crying in front of him. Seeing me in this condition must have triggered something in him, because for a moment there, his eyes softened. He reached for his handkerchief and handed it to me. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'll talk to you, so please don't cry anymore." I took the handkerchief, and began wiping away the tears. I apologized to him and said I was only worried. The truth is, my parents are getting a divorce. I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. Ashton was going through such a hard time, and here I was being insensitive and selfish about his plight, thinking it was all about me. I hated myself. I'm sorry. That's terrible. What happened? Ashton simply shrugged. Things. I don't know. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, you know? Maybe you should talk to them. They love you. I'm sure they'll listen. I was doing my best to cheer him up, but in the end, he seemed uncomfortable with what I said because he answered me coldly. My mother is moving to Japan. I was speechless. Are you leaving with her? No, I'll be staying with my dad. I was relieved to know he wasn't leaving. I didn't know what else I could say to him. I felt like my mouth was drying up. For a moment there, I was afraid that he would just leave. I'm sorry, Ashton, was all I could muster. Don't be. It isn't your fault. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry for worrying you. He gave me a broken smile, and I could tell that he was struggling to stay strong. Emotion suddenly overcame me, and before I could think, I found myself hugging Ashton. It's okay. Just let it all out. I promise I won't leave you. I hugged him tighter, like as if I wasn't going to ever let him go. Ashton was surprised at first, but after a moment, his body started trembling. Then he was sobbing. We stayed like this for a few more moments before Ashton finally pulled away. The slightest of smiles appeared on his lips as he wiped away the tears. Thank you, Becca. I'm really glad you're here. I felt happy when I heard those words. You're welcome, Ashton. And hey, you called me Becca. Am I the only one who calls you that? My parents as well, and now you. We were silent for a few moments. Hey, Becca, maybe you could be my family. My friends, I'll treat them as my family and cherish them as such. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted Ash to see me as something more than a friend or family, just like how I see him. But this is what he needed, and I made a promise that I'd be there for him no matter what. Whatever you need, Ashton, I smiled. I'll be whatever you need me to be. And we're going to end it there, and we'll continue on. Don't know how many entries this part of the diary has, but I guess we'll just see. I don't expect the diary to be too long if I do 3 entries per video, but we'll see. But it is backstory between, so far, Rebecca and Ashton, who are in the letter, main characters in the letter. And yeah, I won't say anymore. I will see you in the next video.